rock star. When I was young, I wasn't one of those girls sitting around playing Barbie. I was the one pretending to be a rock star. Like Ann and Nancy Wilson singing Barracuda, or Ozzy Osbourne with Black Sabbath singing Iron Man. If I was left home alone, I'd go into my sister's room, pick out an album, carry it into the living room, take it carefully out of the sleeve, and place it gently on the record player. Do we all remember records?
Yeah.
So I brought one once when I had to read this, just so people were sure. I'd then go downstairs to my room and get my favorite guitar, or as some people like to call it, the tennis racket. I'd hurry back up the stairs, turn the record player on, watch the album fall to the turntable. When it started to spin, I'd lightly place the needle on the record. As soon as the music began, I would start to rock out on our landing at the top of the staircase. I'd turn the volume up loud so I could drown out my own little voice and pretend I was playing live on stage, singing down to my adoring fans. Sometimes I'd use our broom as the microphone. The cool thing was it could be a broom and a mic stand, all in one. I'm the microphone and a mic stand. But the thing that I loved the most was my sister's big brown hairbrush, the one that everyone had in the 70s so you could flip your hair like a Farrah Fawcett. Anyway, I'd grab my fake microphone like the coolest rock star and sing along at the top of my lungs, jumping and bending and flailing around, playing my tennis racket like it was nobody's business. Until that awful scratchy sound came. The end of the record was near. I'd scurry over to the record player, pretend I was running backstage to grab a drink from my trusty road manager, Eddie Van Halen. I'd take a swig, and then after carefully flipping the album to side B, I'd rev up that record player, get my tennis racket, then I would make a grand entrance back on stage in amazing rock star fashion with a scissor jump in the air, or sometimes I'd do a running slide across the floor, which, by the way, only worked if you had your favorite tube socks on. In either case, I'd grab the broom or the Farrah Fawcett wannabe hairbrush, do some rock star kicks, a few handgun moves, and continue on with my sold-out concert down to my adoring fans. My road manager, Eddie V, giving me the thumbs up from backstage. I was at the top of my game on that stage there on the landing, an air band prodigy in all my glory. Then, to my dismay, side B would end at its final song, and the needle would automatically find its way back to its place, and my rock concert would be coming to a close. Sometimes I'd do an encore, but eventually I'd take my bows to the crowd below, give a few waves, and run backstage to drink and party with my band, which was actually me in the kitchen hanging out with my cat Pookie, who meowed around me while I foraged through the fridge to make a bologna and cheese sandwich, my favorite after-concert snack. When, on this one particular day, while the kitty and I were boozing it up backstage with a pitcher of cherry Kool-Aid, I heard the front door open. I jumped up, poked my head around, and standing in the foyer, just where my fans were my two older sisters staring up at the landing. They looked over to see my guilty face peeking around the corner, then looked towards the record player, looked at each other for a second, then back at me, before settling their eyes right at the landing where all the evidence was laid out before them. The record player with the lid open, the broom, the tennis racket, and their Charlie's Angels hairbrush sitting on the floor. Talk about being snagged. I truly believe my eyes popped out of their socket for a second as I swallowed a gigantic lump in my throat. I think my sisters didn't know whether to laugh at my dorkiness or yell at me for borrowing their stuff. They just rolled their eyes as only big sisters can do, one pointing and saying, "You better not have scratched my record," and the other adding, "You better put that hairbrush right back where you found it." And then it seemed in unison they said, "And don't touch them again." Now, I don't need to tell you that I was truly mortified to be snapped back into my 10-year-old body at that moment, standing there in my green striped tube socks, all dirty on the bottom from sliding across the floor, classic red Kool-Aid mustache across my lip, bologna and cheese sandwich with a bite taking out of it, dangling there in my hand, and Pookie standing there at my feet, looking up at the sandwich, hoping it might fall. I was a sight to behold on my quiet stage, and at that moment, as my young heart sank, I wished I could be a real rock star. Thank you.